Go live. So we should be showing up shortly. I hope.
Yeah.
It's always the fun part with these damn things. You never know.
I'm going to check on my phone to see what your channel is doing right now. Because why not? You know?
Okay, sure. Yeah. It's probably doing something. I don't know.
It doesn't hurt.
Oh, it looks like it might be working. Oh my God.
No, it isn't.
It is. There you are.
Really?
Yes, you're on. Hello.
Oh no. So
Yes.
they've been watching us the whole time. Fantastic.
No. It just popped on like 20 seconds ago.
Look at my face. That's great. Look at that. Just like, help me. I don't understand.
Help me.
Okay.
Fluid
right.
says we're live now. Fluid, can you hear everybody okay? Are we loud enough? Sound good? All that?
That's funny. So it seems to be frozen. Oh, there we go. All right. It's working.
All right. Color Me Triggered is here. Oklahoma Bachelor. And, of course, Julliette Frette, the responsible Renegade. I think I spelled it wrong.
Calling me an egg.
She's the responsible Renegade. The responsible renegade. Oh
it doesn't even matter anymore.
Nah, it's too late. I think we're there. So let's see now. Where's the other thing? Oh my God, I'm so confused. So now that we have that set up, I can look at the other thing and interact with you live. Because otherwise you're way delayed, right?
Yeah, there's a little. I'm looking at on my phone. It looks like I'm not up to date, but that's fine. I think that's just how things are. So we can just.
Well, I mean, it's gonna. There's always gonna be a delay of like 10 seconds or something. So
yeah,
it does get confusing if you're watching the live stream and it's like, wait a minute, your lips are saying something different. It's like, yeah, I have it here on the meeting thing. I don't even know. I suppose I could share this with you, but you're not looking at me. You're just looking at yourself. So how are you? How was your holiday?
You know, considering the New World Order, it wasn't half bad.
Well,
how about yours?
We really didn't think 2021 was going to be worse than 2020. I have a feeling it might be.
Oh, it will.
We have the thing going on that the COOF, which is now apparently branching out into various strains. Have you heard this? Where it's like,
oh, well, that's been happening and underway. I mean, there's going to be a number 20 and a 21 of this disease, and that's by design to enslave us into a New World Order tyranny.
Whoa!
I think.
Hey! All right. That was good.
Did I say some catchphrases?
No, you're good. No, keep going. I'm like, all right, she's on fire tonight. Let's go. Tell me about this New World Order. I mean, it's going to be especially evil for, well, you know, white men, right? Especially ones who voted for Trump.
Right. Well, I think what a lot of the woke people don't understand is that this thing is coming after them too. It's just going to start with with one demonized scapegoat, which right now seems to be white guys, and then it's going to move on, and then eventually everyone will be cannibalized by it. Luckily, I have been able to wake up to it. I had been questioning it for the trends for a while before this really exploded. You and I had been doing our own societal questioning work. Right. And videotaping it for a while, but that's before things got really, really bad. I mean, we thought things were bad, but I mean, considering what I used to be ranting about, or I shouldn't even say ranting, but discussing on my channel, and I've actually gotten rid of most. I like deleted 50 of my own videos just because I thought they weren't that important. But the stuff that I used to talk about, probably portended what is now happening, but. We certainly had it better back then when we were upset with what was going on. And I think what we need right now is as much unity as possible to fight this, because we're in a war. And anyone that doesn't think that we're in a war is kidding themselves, or they have their heads buried in the sand. And those in power would like nothing better than to break up the nuclear family, to break up anything that gives us strength as a community to fight back. Anything that strengthens us, which means, good old manly men being men defecting the homeland, because so and patriot white guys are the first on that list to be targeted as terrorists, So once you can label somebody a Nazi or a terrorist, you can then dehumanize them, go after them, and make everyone else hate them, and therefore not question when they get persecuted. So we see that now.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to draw parallels, but we all know what happened in Germany, right? the same sort of
thing. Do we know what happened in Germany?
Well,
that's another thing. Do we really know what happened? We know what the history books say. Maybe it was worse, maybe it wasn't.
Well, let's just.
I question all history at this point. I think that a lot of the things that we have learned are true have been doctored by those in power that have been in power for probably a lot longer than we're aware of. Those behind the scenes.
Well, let's use a different example. The kulaks in Russia, right? During the Soviet Union.
The gulags, you mean?
Yeah, the kulaks, Kulaks.
Oh, I thought they were gulags. My bad.
Well, there were gulags. Kulaks were the rich farmers.
Okay.
And, of course, they were rich, bourgeoisie, all that other crap, right? And so what they did was they basically went and killed all the kulaks, right? A genocide, so to speak. And in Ukraine, I think it was 3 or 4 million people starved to death because the people that weren't the farmers didn't know how to frigging do the farming, right? But, of course, the first thing they had to do to get rid of the kulaks was dehumanize them. They're evil. Right. They're bad. Oh my God, they're terrorists and they're dangerous and all that stuff. I mean, it seems like it. Yes, it did. I mean, and the whole thing with the Soviet Union, I mean, you could look through all the history that we know, Mao, China, Pol Pot, Soviet Union, Germany, Armenia. I mean, for God's sake. I mean, if you really want to look at some interesting history, you've heard of Vlad the Impaler, right? Dracula?
Yeah.
He's actually a hero from the country where my father comes from, Hungary, because he tried to protect Hungary from the Turks, the Muslim invaders in whatever it was, 14 something or other.
Do you think he was misrepresented as an impaler, or do you think he actually was?
Oh, no. He was actually insane. He did everything he was... But he did it. He was trying to save the country of Hungary, and at that time Transylvania, it wasn't Romania yet, but that area of the world, from the Turkish invaders. He sounds like
he might have been a cultist, to me, but
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I mean, he was very...
That sounds like a lot of cult behavior right there.
Well, no. He was just trying to prevent the Turks from invading his country. That's
but
all.
enjoying it in monstrous,
yes.
Kind of ritualistic ways that, if I'm starting to question figures throughout history that used to do these monstrous things that seemed very ritualistic, I'm like, how far back does this behind the scenes cult go? And I think it goes back for a very long time.
God,
but
I can't.
Just to bring it back to the dehumanizing portion that you had mentioned, the farmers that got dehumanized, that's always the first step. Like, can you succeed in dehumanizing, using the culture to dehumanize a type of person? And it's using propaganda, and that has been successful throughout, history. And then, in more recent memory, it's actually worked quite well for the abortion movement. And that's an unfortunate topic for me as a former feminist. Because propaganda has been very effective in convincing people that it's not a baby, it's a fetus. Once you dehumanize a thing, you can mutilate it and dismember it and kill it, so that's, I used to be very pro-choice, and the more I learn about it, and actually having, become pregnant and been a mom myself, and having given myself the opportunity to be less ignorant about this, I've actually changed my mind, on that.
Well, I mean, it seems to me, and I've said this before, excuse me, abortion is a sacrament of these people, these evil, I don't know if it's bloodlust or what the hell it is, but there's
they make money. Actually,
all of this ties together.
Part.
Well, I've heard that.
Well, it's documented. I actually had a YouTube channel that was shut down. I have another one, as you know, that's still up, but I had one where I was simply repackaging other people's documentaries and kind of putting it out there again. It didn't make any money at all. Nothing I do makes money, but I was simply just trying to get it to just be seen by more people on just videos that I thought were important. And Planned Parenthood is caught saying that they're selling parts.
Yes.
Fetal parts, and then I asked myself, well, how is that possible when women take the abortion pill? They're just miscarrying into the toilet. How is that possible? Well, that's actually not true, because a lot of women that take the abortion pill, they go into a designated bathroom where they have their abortion, and then they are told to leave the fetus in the toilet, and it will be disposed of for them. Well, guess what they do with that fetus?
Oh my God. But I mean, I thought
that's a thing.
When you say the abortion pill, you don't mean the morning after. You mean the double dose of heavy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the legit abortion. So when a woman goes in to get an abortion, and say she goes to Planned Parenthood, and I'm now fully convinced Planned Parenthood is 100% evil. Now I think that people that work for Planned Parenthood are useful idiots and are not, evil themselves. They just believe the, indoctrination, and they mean well, but they are absolutely useful idiots. But the woman will take this medication, not morning after pill, but the actual abortion pill. And Planned Parenthood will have, I don't know whether it's hotel rooms or whatever, but these women will have their abortions into the toilet, and then they're told to leave it in there, and then they take the fetus after that. Like I said, like the Planned Parenthood has come on record saying that, even when they do their standard, surgical removals of the fetus, that they do sell off parts. But if you want to see a video of this, that the BitChute channel that I linked you to has not just my video on there, but a bunch of other videos, and one of them is the Planned Parenthood video where they admit to it. Okay. So, yeah, they're pretty evil.
So yeah, just shoot me all the links to your stuff in the email, and I'll post it on the video after we're done. So. Okay, because I know you're on BitChute, YouTube, you're probably some other places. You're not on Twitter anymore, though, I guess.
No. Yeah, I was canceled off of Twitter right after Trump. Trump was deleted, and the day after that, I was suspended, and I had 20-some thousand followers, and most of them didn't really see my tweets because I'd been shadow banned for quite a long time. So, and also, I think a lot of my followers had followed me because of my previous work in the entertainment industry and likely weren't very interested in the stuff I was tweeting, but mostly it was because I was probably being shadow banned. But yeah, my Twitter is no longer, I'm not on Facebook, I'm on Instagram because, Facebook and Instagram are monitoring and surveilling people in blatant ways. So I just decided the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And so I'm actually not on any major social media platform. I'm on the new ones that kind of, I have like no followers there. So like, what am I going to amplify? Nothing, but yeah, I'm not on any of these major networks or
yeah, I actually just quit Twitter. It's like, Jack, sorry, buddy. You're not getting my time and my attention. Just go away. And it's not just for that reason.
He's glad to be rid of us.
He doesn't care.
He's glad.
But I mean, there were some people, some of the more prominent conservative types. They were losing 70, 80, 100,000 subscribers a day for a while.
Yeah.
And they don't know if it was Twitter actually deleting these people or these people self-deleting, so to speak, because that's what I did. It's like, screw this. Not doing it.
There was a number. I think that's true. I think there were some Twitter bots going out and like trying to get people to unfollow just automatically. I'm not entirely sure what technology was used, but all I can speak to is what happened to me. I even had like a hacker that found me out of nowhere on Twitter that took a screenshot of something he hacked into with Twitter, and me and like a handful of other conservative patriot types were literally like on a Twitter like bad news list. And this was, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or something. Like basically I was on a sort of, I would have had the screenshot. I don't think I downloaded it because now it's gone because I had retweeted it when it happened saying, hey, look, I'm on a Twitter hit list. Look at that. Like they hadn't like hit me yet, but I was on their hit list. He had screenshot it for me. And on that list was Stacey Dash. I don't know if you guys are aware of who she is, but she's that really attractive. Yeah, so she and I and some other people were basically on the screenshot he took of people to be tarred and feathered by Twitter. And so she and I kind of followed each other, but her account was pretty harmless. Like she's tweeting about Jesus all the time. Whatever. I'm like, but I'm tweeting about New World Order stuff and speaking out against masks and, the virus.
The thing.
And all that. And, and I'm not sure if she got taken out or what, but I know I was on a list, and then as soon as they took out the president, I was, why not take me out too, and everyone else, so.
Do you think they were justified in any way for removing Trump?
No.
Not even a little?
Removing Trump from Twitter? No. Yeah. I mean, like, why? Like they have, check it out. They have pedophiles on Twitter that are like I actually I don't know if you noticed because you used to follow me and vice versa on Twitter, and
did I?
Of course you can't keep up with we followed each other.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
But you probably You probably didn't know you probably forgot you were following me because I've been shadow banned, so you probably didn't even see most of my tweets. But like several months ago, I even found like some pedophile profiles that were like loudly and proudly like saying like how they're a proud pedophile and all that crap.
Jesus.
And they're trying to join the LGBTQ movement. They want to be like LGBTQP for pedosexual, right? And they call themselves minor attracted persons. And so it's politically correct to allow these guys on Twitter, but I get to be taken off. Trump gets to be taken off because we question the results of our recent election.
Careful.
So I didn't say the F word. I didn't say the F word. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
It's funny how they're super good at censoring everyone they want on Twitter and YouTube, but they can't get rid of child porn sites. They can't take off the pedophiles that are like sporting their colors, trying to jump on the LGBT bandwagon. Those guys don't get censored.
I have specific theories about that, but
what are they?
Well, I mean, generally, we could go back, and I've said this on videos. I don't want to bore everybody. I'm sure you've probably heard it all before as well. The whole idea of all of this stuff, the F-word people, the women's rights activists and whatever, and the cultural Marxism, it was all designed to drive men and women apart, and now white men and everybody else apart. And all of these things start adding up. What they want to do is they want to make normal the abnormal. That anybody would say, even 10 years ago, this is a little weird, right? And so now you've got a movement that wants to let 5-year-old children decide certain things, right?
Oh, their gender.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
So why is it such a stretch?
I think we can get away with this, James. I think I can say the G word. I think I can say that on YouTube if you don't want me to say
No, that's fine. I think gender's fine. It's just the whole thing that just happened and the other thing that's still going on is, that's that they don't like that. And they don't like the F word, the other F word, the fembot word. But
we can use it. I mean, I did say I was a former feminist.
Well, we can use it, sure.
Yeah. And I think certain videos, MGTOW and others, some of them get censored and some of them don't. And I think there's a reason for why certain videos stay up and why some don't, even if they contain all the trigger words. I mean, some of it might just be that it's an oversight because their bots aren't yet that great yet. And then I think some parts are actually deliberate. Some things actually do serve their agenda, even if we don't think it serves their agenda. Keeping it up would serve their agenda of division. So if it stirs up hatred of the sexes, it's like, oh well, we want to dissolve the nuclear family. We don't want people coupling up and having children.
That's right.
If this MGTOW video makes women hate men and men hate women more, we're going to let that go because we want women and men dependent on the government, not each other. So let's let these certain MGTOW videos stay up. But what I have noticed is that certain MGTOW videos that get censored are often the ones that say, hey, when they call out like the government interference, maybe, and this is just my perspective.
Yep.
I think that the truther type videos that kind of, they go past the surface area of like, oh, some women are bitches and abuse the system, to the real culprit, which is there's an underlying cultural phenomenon that is being pushed by people in the shadows, and that is to accomplish these nefarious ends. And I think those are the videos that are going to get censored more than the videos that are simply stirring up hatred between the sexes. So as much as I know a lot of your viewers are very like irritated with women and how many women have benefited from this corrupt system, not that you aren't correct. I think we need to get past this because they're using it against us. I mean, they're using your hatred of your own bad experiences with women and the cultural conditioning that has promoted that worldwide. They're using it against us, and then they're using it against us again. So they're setting the stage for us to hate each other, and then they're applauding you when you're getting pissed off, and therefore they succeed when the nuclear family ceases to exist because because men go their own way. It's like, oh yay, let men go their own way, because if men go their own way, they're not going to protect the homeland. They're not going to protect the household. It serves, unfortunately, I feel like MGTOW, just like feminism, in some ways will serve the interests of the DS, the deep state. I hope I can say that. Because
I think you can, yes.
Yeah, I think MGTOW and feminism, because of the fact that the nature of both means that we should not come together as a traditional unit to fight for what we care about, that we're all atomized, that we're all individuals off doing our own selfish thing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't take care of yourself, but they want us alone. They don't want us to be in good relationships.
Correct.
They don't want us to have control over our children, you know?
Oh yeah, they want to get your kids as soon as they can, and you know that.
I'm homeschooling mine.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about the homeschool groups that we're with, a lot of us are not legally married. We all call each other, I shouldn't say we, but they call each other husbands and wives. But legally speaking, they're actually just not married because some of them, because they just don't want to go through this whole government control over their union. Now, I actually am legally married for a number of practical reasons, but I wasn't actually for the first 2.5 years of my kid's life. We're just together and we're like, well, weddings are expensive and, we'd rather buy a house and all this other stuff.
Sure. No.
But yeah.
Totally. I mean, there are some guys on this channel and you usually get some flack for it. That's all right. Is some people do compare men going their own way with feminism and say they're kind of similar. And the way I think they're similar is that they're both trying to basically drive men and women apart. Men are saying, screw it, the divorce laws and all this crap. Nah, I'm not going to do that. And women are saying, well, men are all R-words and they're all evil and toxic, domestic violence and all this other crap, which is not true.
Yeah.
But I was actually having a discussion with Suzanne Venker. You know Suzanne? She puts out, she's pretty much a men's rights activist. And she's actually the daughter-in-law of Phyllis Schlafly. You may have heard that name. She was the lady who almost single-handedly got the ERA amendments in the 70s kiboshed. She went around. It was cute. We don't want this equal rights men. Here's some cookies, and we're going to bake bread and all this crap. Of course, conservative icon, and everybody hates her, right? Because equal rights, my God, we got to have that. But I was having a discussion with her.
Worded, right?
I'm sorry?
Equal rights. That's every crappy bill that has nefarious intentions has some beautiful title that sounds like it should be acceptable. Like, why don't you want us to have it? It's like because it's kind of like the stimulus packages. It's like, oh, don't you want your $600 from the government? It's like, yeah, but I don't want a bunch of money going to gender studies in Pakistan either. It's like you blink at a bunch of stuff. Anyways, continue. Sorry for interrupting.
A lot of this stuff comes out with a kernel of truth, right? A lot of this stuff, when you're talking about the Title IX stuff or whatever, there's a kernel of truth. But then they exploded into this massive freaking thing, which it isn't. But everybody believes it. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Anyway, getting back to Venker, she's kind of like the Dennis Prager types. Ben Shapiro just had a video the other day. His sister, actually, traditional marriage and all this stuff. And I just made a comment to her, and she didn't really like it. It's like the government is not interested in us getting married. That's actually against what the government wants. Why do you think all this crap is happening? What's your thought? Because here's my thought process. I might be completely wrong here. If you've got two people working, you've got two tax slaves, right? So if you got a man and a woman, both in their careers, right? They get taxes. You get somebody married and they know perhaps that many women maybe want to back off on the career, have their kids, maybe just work part-time or do some other stuff, or just be a stay-at-home mother. Well, you can't tax that, can you? You can't tax motherhood yet. So that's my whole theory. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I think you're right. I think they're going to exploit everything they can. I think they would rather us not be married and stable because then we're a formidable army.
Bingo.
We're a gun-toting formidable army if we have stability in our homes,
Yep.
But I think they will try to profit from everything they can. They will try to infiltrate. When I say they, I mean the deep state. I mean those working behind the scenes, trying to push us into their agenda, which does not benefit us. And I think that, just to quickly digress, I think that agenda means they will eventually dispose of everyone who isn't useful to them, and everyone who stays will be some form of a slave to this agenda. Yeah, I think they will tax working parents for sure, and taxes are illegal, income taxes based on our research. So that's exciting. But they know that it costs $250,000 or God knows to take the IRS to court. They know it's illegal, but they just know the average person doesn't have the money to fight it out. And if they do, then they're off of taxes for the rest of their days, or so I've learned. But yeah, they will exploit every single aspect of every single thing we have. And I do agree with you that if that a stay-at-home mom can't be taxed, but I think it goes way beyond like, oh no, we lost one taxable body. I think it goes into the very fabric of the system they're trying to create. Like, they cannot brainwash the children who come from stable, loving homes. They can more easily brainwash the children who are searching for meaning when they're basically being farmed out because their parents are too busy working and can't parent them. So even just the average everyday working parents that farm their kids out to schools and daycares who mean well, like, those kids are lacking connection and bonding with their parents, unlike previous generations when kids used to have a stay-at-home mom predominantly, so those kids are looking for connection during their daytimes because they only spend maybe an hour a day with their parents when they get home. So they have all this time to be brainwashed. But hey, if you've got a stay-at-home mom, you've got involved parents. And if you have involved parents, you have parents who have control. And then you can't create your army of communists that you're trying to create if you're the New World Order, like they want single moms. They want kids that don't have any connections. They want our bonds to be broken because it's so much easier to manipulate kids and people who are feeling isolated and lonely, have nothing else.
I mean, if the government, for example, and you're absolutely right, if the government wanted people to get married, be strong, families, all that other crap, they would immediately go fix the divorce laws, but they don't. Because they don't. Look, men, a lot of men.
It's ways, you're right.
A lot of men are waking up as of late, and there's always been men that kind of knew this thing, but it's a little more widespread with the Crimson Capsule stuff and all that. There are disincentives for men to enter into the contract, and they're all
because they know what's waiting for them.
Exactly, or what potentially is waiting. I mean, the statistics are stretched a little bit. This 50% of marriages that end in divorce and all. That's kind of true, but not really. But we don't have to go down the road. But a lot of them do. Right? There's a lot of them. And if a female can say, I'm tired of this and I want to punch out, I'm going to get custody of the kids, I'm going to get alimony, which I thought that was kind of one of those patriarchal, old-fashioned concepts. Funny, you never hear feminists complain about that, do you? No. I
mean, that only makes sense when you're a stay-at-home mom and don't have any income history. Like, I can see an argument for that. It's like, okay, well, I've been not working for 10 years raising the kids, so how am I going to, what am I going to do, work at McDonald's and actually be able to pay the bills? Like, so I understand the alimony situation there. But even my husband and I have had disagreements or discussions, I should say, about like, he doesn't think that alimony makes sense like most of the time. And most of the time I agree with him, but I'm kind of trying to be a critical thinker and be like, well, I think this is situational. Like, you have to see what the situation is, but sweeping laws that grant all this power to women are extremely problematic because women can be very abusive, if not more abusive than men, because women get away with it. Women get away with it because like I know of women that have physically abused their husbands. And they're still together. And the stuff that they did to their husbands would be something that if the guy did it to them, they'd be in jail. But women get away with it because I'm a woman. And if I do this thing, like, oh, well, then you just made me mad. And, I'm weaker than you, so I don't need to be accountable. It's like, well, no. So I actually think that women can be a lot more dangerous than men because women slip under the radar, and I think there's a hell of a lot more abusive women out there that aren't being held accountable. And even if the man succeeds in divorcing these types of women, it's not like they ever go to frickin' jail for it, but rarely if they do something terrible, like, I have a story of one woman that like put out cigarette butts on her man when he was passed out. They're divorced now, but she's not in jail for that. Can you imagine a man doing that to a woman? Another story of when a wife stabbed her husband with a knife in the stomach. They had 3 kids. They're still together. The kids are grown.
What?
Yes. It's not a joke. And these are people that I know. Okay. I've met them. And so it's like, if I have met these people, and you would never guess meeting them that this is what they're capable of, But hey, I'm a sweet little woman. We are just as deadly as men, and if not more so, because everyone underestimates us.
Yeah. No, you're right. And plus, there's always the get out of jail free card. I mean, I did a video a long time ago, and I still think, actually, maybe I was prescient. The consequence-free life is what women want. That's my take on it.
That's not what I want. I think some women might want that. I think what we're now getting into is the millennial generation that's thoroughly brainwashed by radical leftist politics. So you have both, I would say, men and women, but I don't consider men and you have to have a special kind of integrity and accountability for me to consider you a man or a woman. So I'll just say males and females that might not even identify in the gender binaries as male and female, but whatever. So you have all of these people with penises and vaginas that actually don't want to be accountable. You have a lot of like wimpy, men, not men, but boys, males that are like, they want to blame everyone else. They're the types that are going to be like spouting off like BLM when they're like some skinny white boy because they don't, like it's just everyone. I could go on, but I think there's an epidemic, or I should say a pandemic, of people that don't want to take responsibility for their own lives, and that includes both men and women. And that's why we're in this friggin' situation, because people don't have the balls to fix their own lives. And they don't have the balls to stand up to what's not right. They wear the mask if they don't agree with it, or they just believe the bullshit. Like I could launch into like the situation of the masks and the tyranny at this point. But I think the problem is we have a bunch of weak bastards that haven't been raised with the kind of integrity and character and adversity that we need to fight this thing. I mean, I think we have some, but we need to wake up the lions is what we need. Like they say like, okay, well, we got to wake up the sheep. It's like, yeah, and I think what we really need are the lions to gather together to fix what's going on. And we can't expect to be a majority, but powerful minorities have changed the course of history. So we can't, give up just because, it feels like you don't have enough people backing you, right? So this became a long-winded kind of response to what you said, but I do feel like it goes well beyond women at this point in not wanting to be accountable. We have a whole disastrous generation of people that want to be taken care of, that want to bitch and moan and blame everyone, especially the white man, for what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, that we did, trust me, your parents, Generation X, is like, oh, God, I used to work with those whining babies. And, of course, they had babies. What do you expect? It wasn't going to get worse. Yeah. I mean, look back in the early 90s, there were these movies like Singles was one, and there was some freaking whining, kind of shit. It's like, well, their parents worked 30 years to buy their house and their RV, and they get out of college and they expect to have all that shit right away, right? And they're, oh my God, it's unfair. What did you take in college? Well, it was English lit. I should be able to get a job as a CEO. It's no different today. There aren't enough women in STEM. Okay, what did you take? Well, I took French literature. Well, what can I tell you? It's crazy.
Cause and effect.
But what I would add is that the government supports women not having any accountability.
Yes.
Men are still held to accountability to some degree. Even the millennial pukes.
Okay,
okay.
But if you're a man of color, then you get a little bit of an easier time, because anything that can be grouped into like a made up sort of like victim group gets special privileges, right?
Yes.
So yeah. I mean, if you're black, then you get put on a pedestal. If you're
or a person of color, if you're gay, trans, whatever.
If you're not straight, yeah. If you're
basically,
not straight, then you get put on a pedestal.
If you're not white and male, you're somehow different and special, and you need to be coddled. I mean, I'm sure you've seen all the Biden executive orders. I mean, he put out more in a week than all the other presidents in history, or some crazy thing. But it's all this stuff for equity is what we're hearing now, and of course, equity means equal outcome, not equal opportunity.
Right, which is tyranny, and we knew that.
Exactly.
I mean, that guy is owned by China, so and not just China, but something deeper than China. And this was kind of what we all feared would happen. But it's happening. So we have to get off our asses and get more creative and proactive and stop just liking posts on Facebook and ranting online. We have to be better about this, because it's nice to talk about it and make people aware, which is what we're doing right now.
Right.
But I think it's important to encourage people to go past the angry discussions, to go past the fact that we are unpleasantly surprised but not surprised that this is the situation we're in, and we have to get braver. We have to do the things that are uncomfortable, even if we're faced with adversity and confrontation. Say the things that are true.
Well,
even if you get attacked.
I know. But I mean, the left has been so successful at brainwashing people that they actually think it's obvious. Sure, it's because black people are whatever and whitey and all of this crap. Women are oppressed. I mean, give me a frigging break, for God's sake. Women in the United States are oppressed. Come on. How?
Well, they will be soon. They will be soon.
Well, that's very true.
They will be soon.
They're not going to be happy about it either.
Okay, well, check it out. We're all oppressed. They're putting us in fucking muzzles.
Yep. That's right.
That's oppression. And they're trying to make it like mandatory that even though there's claims that nothing will be mandatory, but it is. If it's like you have to, if you can't work a job without this infectious vaccine, this is slavery. So yes, we actually, we are oppressed now. So okay, manifest destiny, we're oppressed, and it's not just us. But here's the thing. One thing that my husband has said very eloquently is that no one can actually take your freedom, but they can take your life. So you can actually, you give your freedom away. So if you comply with evil authoritarian rules that you don't agree with, you're giving your freedom away. You're giving your power away because you're afraid they're going to take something else that you're holding on to more dearly. But if you actually prize your freedom above everything else, you'll be like, hey, you tell me to do this thing, I'm not going to do it. What are you going to do? Shoot me? Okay, go ahead, shoot me. Or you want to fight it out? But I think we have to remember, all of us, and I say this to myself, including everyone else, no one can take anything from you without your permission, other than your life.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it.
And
so if you're willing to have some balls, no one's going to take shit from you, right?
But I mean, it seems maybe, God, I hate to be negative, but it seems like there are just a lot of ignorant damn people in this country. They just don't care.
But there are some people that are awake, and I feel like a lot of awake people, what I've noticed is that even if people are awake, doesn't make them brave. And I think what's important is that if you're one of these people that are like, geez, I wish I could do this thing, but I've got to work, or I wish I could stand up to this, but then I'd have a hard time shopping at Whole Foods. It's like, hey, what do you value more, your principles? And when you're on your deathbed, are you going to be like, oh, thank God, I could shop at my favorite grocery store conveniently and easily with the muzzle on, and thank God that I didn't stand up for what I really wanted, which was freedom, even though it would cost me a lot of adversity. So people who are awake, the vast majority of people that are on our side are cowards. A lot of people who are listening are probably cowards, and it's going to piss people off. But if you feel offended by what I just said, then you need to examine your personal practices. Now, if you're not offended by what I said, then you're probably doing pretty good, and you're probably living by your own integrity. You're probably like, this is what I believe, and therefore this is what I do. It's the people that believe one thing and do another because they make up some convenient excuse about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, so I can't therefore honor my true self. It's these people that are going to think that I'm an asshole when I say there's a lot of cowards that are awake but are just not walking their talk. Imagine all the people that went to the Trump rallies. So many people went to Trump rallies, but you know what? Those exact same people are masking up and complying. If the same amount of people simply didn't comply, we wouldn't have been in this position. But everyone put their hope in some savior other than themselves. They're not accountable, but this savior is accountable, but I'll just go ahead and give them all my energy. I'm going to make them do all the work. I'm going to wait for the savior, and I'm not going to save myself. I'm just going to comply and get along, and that's the problem. People on our side need to grow a set of balls. We need more
get
people.
a spine. Yeah.
Just grow some balls. And it's never too late to grow a set of balls. It really isn't. I'm a woman and I've got some balls, some ovaries, But
you got some balls.
And I always, and then you have to ask yourself, like, okay, well, what would put me at risk for violating my own integrity? Say you're doing a really good job and you are living by your own principles, and even though it's hard, and you ask yourself, okay, well, what would make me tuck tail? What would make me not walk my talk? Is it fear of money? Is it fear of financial? And so do what you can to buffer yourself and prepare yourself so that you're less likely to put yourself in a situation where you will buckle to tyranny because you're afraid of losing resources. So this is kind of like saying, hey, if you're worried about money and you were going to lose your job or whatever, if you adhere to your own principles, well, you better start saving now and don't spend frivolously so that you can basically, buy yourself a sense of security for when you put your foot down and say no. Maybe you can do that tomorrow, maybe you can't. And it's rich coming from someone like me who's a stay-at-home mom. I don't have to work at this point, so it's easier for me to give the big F you to everyone who tries to tell me to put a mask on, because I don't have to go to work. So I acknowledge that. I think a lot of people that are standing up to this are like retirees, stay-at-home moms that are like homeschoolers, and like retired veterans. Like those are the ones that can more easily stand up. And if they don't stand up, then it's extra hard for everyone else to. So it's like you have to have these people stand up, because they're the ones that can do it more than anybody else. And I'm in that group. So it's like, if I don't stand up, then I'm absolutely betraying you guys, because I can stand up. It's hard for me. Like, I've had to cancel flights. I've had to fire doctors. I have issues getting my doctor my kid in to see doctors because they won't see us without a mask, even though they see kids without masks all day long. Like, I'm a hardline anti-masker. And I, run a couple different activist organizations that are pro-freedom. And so this is not easy, but hey, like, we do what we can. I just think that people need to try harder, whatever that means to them, every day. It's not a joke.
I was just looking outside here before we started the call, and I swear to God, I see so many people out here in Colorado. Beautiful sunny day, right? Clean air, sunshine, walking around with a frigging mask. With no one around. They're by themselves. It's like, what in the world?
It's so hard. We've gotten used to this, but it's so disgusting that we've gotten used to it. And these people, it's part of their life now. They think it's weird when people don't wear masks, and you see these people with masks in their cars too.
Oh my God, yes.
It makes me just if I actually give it too much of my energy, it makes me depressed, because I'm thinking, I'm raising my kid right. I'm homeschooling her. Like, everyone we hang out with is an anti-masker. We all do our activism together, all that stuff. But the problem is that she's growing up in this super fucked up generation with these kids that are just emotionally and intellectually polluted and dumbed down. And now they're teaching BLM and Tifa shit in curriculum in schools and elementary schools. This is happening in LA County specifically, I heard. And it's just like, and then in my state, they passed a law that enables like some new and improved sex ed for kids that are like 4 years old. It's like, kids do not need sex ed that young. To give them sex ed that young is a form of sexual abuse. And
it is.
Honestly, I don't feel like, I used to think that sex ed was a positive thing before I realized that I was just part of the indoctrinated crowd that didn't know any better. But sex ed has actually led to more teenage pregnancies, more STDs. It was a benevolent idea that simply backfired. And so I would say sex ed's not good for anyone unless you're literally in like biology when you're 15 or 16, like learning about the X and Y chromosomes and the sperm and the egg. But like all the stuff about like showing like 13-year-olds how to put condoms on bananas, like all that does is encourage sexual behavior to minors who shouldn't be having sex,
Because it's almost like it's sort of like a tacit approval. Oh, well, my teacher wanted me to do this. I guess I'll try it with little Johnny on Friday night or whatever. It's just
right. Yeah, I mean, we know that the hormones are already going wild at that age, but give outlets, when you give permission and avenues, you actually have kids that will like have sex at an early age that have no business having sex at an early. I mean, if it's pedophilia for an adult to have sex with someone under the age of 18, then it should be similarly taboo to teach people under the age of 18 that they should be having sex, and here's how to do it safely. It's like, that's the parent's job. But
here's your rubbers.
Yeah, but now they're trying to do it to 4-year-olds in like my state.
Of course.
And
of
so
course.
it's 100%. I mean, like every time I hear of something disgusting happening in schools, I'm like, yep, so glad we're doing homeschool. But the problem is that my kid is growing up in a generation of all these fucked up weirdos, right?
Yeah.
So she's gonna have to interact with these people eventually.
Yep.
And it's gonna feel like she's in a fun house, and it's gonna not be pleasant, you know? And all I can do is my best to try to like create my own sphere of, I don't know, freedom and productivity and never give up. Because you know what? The truth is that this is our fault now. Like what is happening right now used to be our parents' fault. The reason why we're in this position is because our parents' generation were lazy sacks and they didn't question anything. And they gave us like TV dinners and they didn't question anything. They didn't question the doctors. They didn't question the food. They didn't question shit. And so now here we are trying to fucking fix everything. And so now what is going to happen to our children is going to be now our fucking fault, right? So it's always the previous generation that kind of sets the stage. So I'm not going to be the one that's sitting on my deathbed being like, you know what? When the New World Order took over, I was watching Netflix and liking things on Facebook. I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to be the person that said, well, I did every shitty, every good thing I could think of to combat this shitty experience. And even if it didn't work, at least I could say that I tried, you know?
Yep. Except don't blame me. It was your grandparents that did that.
Well, blame me too, because like, I mean, I have to accept responsibility now. Like, so even though I blame our parents' generation and the generation before that let it fall, like cascade into this total shitstorm nightmare that we're in,
Yep.
you know, I now have to ask, you know, I have to blame myself too, because maybe in a year or two from now, like I could reflect back on what I did in this past year and be like, well, maybe I could have done even more, you know? I mean, it's hard to say, but I'll tell you what is definitely not acceptable is people sitting on their asses watching Netflix, liking things on Facebook. That's totally not productive at all. If that's what you're doing, like fucking worthless. It's worthless, right? So just, if you want to be proud of yourself, like do things that make you proud of yourself and do things that would make your kids proud of you. Even if you're in MGTOW, you don't ever want kids. Like it's how will you feel about your life, considering the kind of adversity that we're in, considering that everything is now our responsibility, our fault, even though it didn't used to be, it is now. And if we don't accept responsibility now, we're just like the people we decry. We're just like the millennials we despise. We're just like the women that don't want to take accountability for the undeserved benefits they reap from a corrupted system. If we don't take ownership of what's going on, we are just as unaccountable as all the people we despise. So we have to do it. It sucks. It sucks, but we have to do it.
So getting back to your previous discussion about the sex ed and all that stuff, I think this is, again, another way to drive men and women apart, right? Because, you know, you start early and often, and, you know, because we always hear this bullshit, and it is bullshit, about the sexual revolution, right, in the 60s. Oh, everybody was having fun and all that. No. That's not actually true. Women were having fun. And it's the same. They're always going for the top guys, right? My dad who's like 86 this year. He came from Hungary. Very good-looking guy, you know, the thick accent and all this kind of crap. He was getting more ass than you could even imagine. Why? Because he was a top-shelf guy, right? And so the sexual revolution just made it not a bad thing for most women to go out and do that if they wanted to, right? And, of course, then the church went away. Society doesn't look down upon it anymore. Single motherhood is welcomed. All of these crazy things. And it's a known fact that men do not want to deal with women who have had that much carousel riding. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I would like to offer a perspective on that.
Oh, please. Yes.
I think the reason why a lot of you guys don't like to hook up or actually take into a relationship a woman who has hooked up with a lot of guys is not because necessarily, you know, sex is bad, you know. In fact, in a utopian situation, I think like we shouldn't really be judged by, as long as we're not deceiving people and cheating and doing all these horrible things. Like if we're, you know, consenting adults, like you shouldn't be considered bad for going and hooking up with somebody. I think the challenge with men is that you guys really want to feel special. And I mean, women want to feel special too, but I think this is part of like the brainwashing of society, is that we don't realize how sensitive men are. And I think men are so sensitive, and that's probably why when one woman hurts you, it's just like so hard to recover from.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
society is not acknowledging how fucking sensitive men are. In fact, I would contend that men are more sensitive than women, more sensitive, but have been conditioned to not be able to show that. So men really want to feel special, and they're just not going to feel special around a woman who is hooking up with a lot of people. So I mean, whereas, you know, like I'll just repeat myself, it's not bad in my perspective for men and women to hook up with whoever they want as often as they want. I just think that that men want to be like, hey, I was the chosen one. She doesn't hook up with many people, but she chose me. Because why? Because I'm special. And if I'm special, then I have value to her. And if I have value to her, maybe she can be valuable to me. And it's really a trust thing. It's a trust issue of like, am I special? It's a trust and it's a worth thing. So I think if I was to tell women, like, how do you know, snare a good guy, or really any guy for that matter, I'd be like, don't have sex with them, because then they don't think that, you know, they're very special. You have to. Men want to feel like they accomplished something, like that they won something, that they earned something, you know, through their merits, because they're good and wonderful, you know. So, and that's I mean, that's kind of the primal chase, you know. They want to bring home the prize, and you can't bring home a prize if the prize is available everywhere, right?
No. I guess I would tend to agree. Yeah, you know, I wanted to be the special one or whatever, and yeah, I could probably buy that, and of course so does she, right? You know.
Yeah, but
obviously.
I think it's more of an issue with men. I think that men have been very misunderstood and underestimated. Men are very emotional and very sensitive, even though they don't show it, and they are very, very influenced by self-worth issues, and they're not going to feel comfortable and safe with a woman who doesn't give them those feelings. Now, there's plenty of women who I'm sure have hooked up with a lot of guys, but then finds the right one, and they're both happy together. And you know, I'm just making a generalization.
Oh, sure.
Here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I think, but I think this is all by design. Like there's caricatures for a reason, and sometimes I think they benefit the agenda. You know, men are these deplorable beings that don't have these vulnerabilities, and
we have no feelings. True. We're just big Neanderthal, you know, toxic, evil man.
Just money machines.
That's
money
right.
Machines.
We're wallets and stuff.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, it's
women are a lot more emotionally resilient than men, because we've been socialized to have a whole network of support with, because, you know, we're always like, when we have a problem, we've been given this social acceptance, you know, thumbs up to go talk about that with our entire female network. And we have all this emotional support, so we can get over heartbreak a lot more easily than you guys. Whereas you guys, someone fucks you over, you're sitting there being like, well, I can't talk to my friend about that because that's gay. And I can't talk to this guy because that's gay. Oh, I can't talk about anything because that's going to make me look weak. Okay, I'm just going to sit here and stew about it and just hate everything, you know? And so I think men can't recover because they're not trained to think that they can rely on their other interpersonal relationships. And I think I've seen men jump out of this problem when they just kind of like, well, grow the balls to confide in another man or even just another person, and kind of like do the emotional work it takes to get over heartbreak and other things like that. But men who don't think that way just kind of sit and stew, and they never heal, you know?
Well, I mean, this is kind of on the topic, but a little weird. You remember Cosmo magazine, right? You know,
How could anyone forget?
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for a long time. I actually listened to a documentary about the founder of that yesterday. It was pretty interesting. But I always wondered, especially when I was younger, right? Like 18, 19, 20, 21. You go to the grocery store, there's Cosmo. How to make him happy in bed. How to keep him, you know, excited in bed. And I'm like, she has to show up. What the hell are they talking about, right? But of course, they're not talking about me. They're talking about the top guys because they have options. What's your take on that? I mean, you were probably around some, you know, pretty big athletes and movie stars and shit. I think you went to UCLA, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, well, UCLA is actually not as when I was there, I didn't see very many good-looking guys, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, it was mostly it's a difficult place to get into academically. At least 10 years ago, when it was less. I mean, I think from what I can tell by proxy now, going to a university now is like completely like worse than worthless. But when I went, geez, how long ago was it? Probably 15 plus years ago.
Oh my God.
Um, I'm old. So let me, if I had to do the math, yeah, about 15-ish years ago when I graduated college. I mean, obviously, we know that the universities have been pawns for the agenda, whether it's using radical leftism or whatever the hell they're using at the time to accomplish their ends. But it's a place of indoctrination, and some of it's like religion. It's like truth mixed with bullshit. Which one's the truth and which one's the bullshit, right? You got to have discernment for that. But back then, at least in my memory and perspective, it wasn't nearly as indoctrinating as it is now. Like, people were allowed to disagree back in my day. We were allowed to challenge theories, and nowadays you just be called a racist for that.
Of course.
No, so just getting back to this idea of like, what was it like for me in this perspective of like women just going for the top guys. UCLA, not a place of hot people. Like, it was academically difficult to get into. We kind of called it the University of Caucasians Lost in Asians, UCLA, because it was basically just a bunch of white people and Asian people for the most part, and they're all like nerds, all bookworms.
Sure,
and you had a couple jocks that got in on like scholarships, but for the most part, it wasn't. If you wanted to see good-looking people in universities, go to like University of Arizona or something like that. Go to the party schools. The party schools have the hotter people, but for the most part, I didn't see a lot of hot people at my school. And I had a boyfriend that I had but definitely I had been with from high school at the time. So I had this sort of high school sweetheart I had been holding on to up until almost the end. So in terms of like women going for the alpha, like you're kind of saying, like, of course, women would go for who they think the alpha is. But what's interesting now is that our society and our indoctrination and our technology has actually changed what the alpha male is to a lot of these women. Now, for me, the alpha male is what I think it should be, which is a beautiful man with integrity and honor and decency, and who can like protect the home and is a hard worker. Doesn't have to be rich. In fact, usually rich guys are like the kind of wimpy little, not very masculine types, but so my idea of a manly man that can really just be a man and just be that like guardian, like provider, that's an alpha, someone who has a set of balls, who's not going to like tuck tail, whereas now a lot of woke people perceive the alpha male, not necessarily all woke, I mean, like, probably goes beyond the woke people, as the kind of the guy that can make money, that's an engineer, so now guys don't even need muscle tone, they just need to make money, working online. And I think that can be very problematic, and some people think that's like the wave of the future, and to me, I think that's extremely problematic. You can have a bunch of guys that actually aren't even doing their primal thing anymore. But maybe they're more available to their kids because they're working from home. I don't know, because I think there are some challenges with the standard manly man if they don't stay home with their kids enough. Like, I think every father needs to be present in their kids' lives. Like, a father that's never there is not good on any level. But I think the alpha is changing, at least right now. I don't know if this is a trend that's going to stay. It's weird. But my alpha has stayed the way I like it, which is manly man with a set of balls and integrity.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It doesn't hurt if they have muscles. It certainly doesn't.
Of course not.
But if I have to be super like simple, about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree that you're going to want to get the best mate and all that. We don't have to go down that path, but it seems like like the football players at Arizona State or the party guys. They always seem to have women, right? And you see the chess nerds, you got nothing. Or the engineers. It's like, when I went to school, we had, oh my God, 3 maybe female engineers in the whole department. It's like, oh my God.
It's very common now, actually. You've got a lot more female engineers. Yeah. But yeah, I think, the jocks, stereotypically they get more play, right? But
Yeah,
I think not for long. If they don't have the kind of integrity, that will make a relationship last, they'll just end up in divorce after divorce, and rightly so if they're douchebags and they're like, cheating or something.
No. I'm not talking about marriage. I'm talking about college
just
party
playing,
time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But here's one super screwed up thing I will say is that this whole like sexual liberation movement, which can be good in some ways and terrible in others, has enabled women to hook up with guys that aren't alpha, that they just kind of hook up with. Especially dating app culture. Dating app culture, I think, is a part of this. Like a lot of people who are just lonely, that don't have community, are hooking up with all kinds of random guys, and they're not that hot. I'm telling you this because I've had friends. I've had friends that are very good catch, like women that are just like very, very good catches that are just hooking up with the fuggliest bastards I've ever seen.
They have money or anything, or.
No, that's the thing. It makes no sense. It's like she's the alpha, she's the provider, she's the one who makes the money. But I've seen her, like, I'm thinking one specific friend, and if she ever watches this, she'll forgive me. But, hooking up with guys that make no money, that are not attractive, and that are just douchebags, right? Like, and and she's not alone. Like, I have seen a lot of women just not have high standards, so it's not always like this whole like jocks get all the attention. It's like, I think this culture of disconnected dating has created a situation where people get a lot of play and even shitty, shallow, mediocre relationships with all the wrong people, and you just see this happen over and over and over again. So I think there's a lot of sex going on, and a lot of the sex is just really mediocre. I think that's what's happening. There's a lot of mediocre sex happening with a lot of mediocre people that should not be together. When I say mediocre people, I don't mean like if you're not a good fit for someone. I mean, you're a mediocre person for that person. Like just because you're not right for my friend doesn't mean you're not perfect for somebody else. But when I say mediocre, her ex-boyfriend was mediocre. Now he was a liar too, but let's pretend he wasn't a liar. He's mediocre, and he would have been maybe not mediocre for somebody else. But I'm just saying, there's just
it didn't work in that situation. Yeah.
No,
but I mean, why do you think? I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to tell you that a lot of women are hooking up with a lot of guys across the board, and it's not the alphas. Yeah. It's all over the place, and so everyone's getting play now, and it's not high quality. Because you're just hooking up with, you're not looking for quality. When I say quality, I mean quality of relationship. I don't mean like, if you're not rich, you're not quality. I'm not saying that. Trying to be clear with my words here.
No, I got you. But it also depends somewhat on the age of the person.
Sometimes, although there are some 40, 50-year-old men that are just
no. The age of the women, not the men.
It can be. I think, younger women do have more their pick of men, but not if they're super stupid. So if you have like a young woman who is just a total dingbat, like men might hook up with her, but they're not going to want to keep her.
Of course not. Yeah.
So I think that I think a woman who takes really, really good care of herself, that is a good quality human being at any age is going to be a catch. Just like a good man, is going to be a catch at any age. Now, men kind of this is where men have the upper hand. Men can actually have more success dating someone much younger than them when they're older, whereas women don't have as much success with that. Although more and more they are having success now that more and more women are like making tons of money, they can actually afford to be like the sugar mamas. So you see that kind of, but it's kind of not an authentic experience. When you see a super old woman with a super young guy and they're like, oh yeah, they're in love. It's like, no, they're not. It's kind of like, yeah, but I think like if you actually look at the legit attraction, like I'll have girlfriends that will go for a guy, in his 50s, and I'll be like, but you could go for these guys over here, and that's way more common for women to go for older men than it is for men to go for substantially older women. Now I'm older than my husband, but not by a lot. I can get a baby cougar,
a couple years here and there is no big deal. But you're right. I mean, in general, women. Young women can pick older men, and there's usually not much of a big deal. It's a little bit harder for the older women. Yeah.
You have to be like, you got to really have your shit together if you're an older woman, if you want a younger man, or if you want just really any man that's good for you. Like, I mean, you can get a man, but he might be mediocre. And when I say mediocre, I mean not a good fit for you, right?
Well, I think maybe also, and this is kind of some of the theory of the Crimson Capsule stuff, right? The RP, is a woman can always find a guy to do it. It's just the relationship part that a lot of times it just ain't there. You know, it just why would I want to do that with? Yeah, I'll throw you a bang. You know, to be rather.
You want to feel special.
Course. But I'll throw you.
You want something special.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw you a bang, but you know, I'm not gonna. Because I mean, you remember the Tommy Lauren thing that came up? Remember that?
You can tell me about it because I don't.
Yeah. Tommy Lauren was all men are trash and all men are bad, and my friends are all wonderful and fantastic, and you know, it's not our problem, it's men, because men are all trash. You didn't see that? Really? That was all over the place like 5-6 months ago. Interesting.
You know, anything that's from the mainstream media, I try to avoid because I don't trust a damn thing they say.
Well, this was just on YouTube. This wasn't a media thing. It was just her ranting on YouTube. So
I've been researching a lot of other stuff.
No, I'm sure.
Pertaining to New World Order.
Of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, this would have stuck out for men because it's like, what are you talking about? Men are trash. And it turns out she's talking about, and she's 27, something like that. Not ugly, not terribly attractive, but she's all right. Mm-hmm. And she's shooting at guys that are like, there's 10 or 20,000 of these men in the entire frigging country, right? You got to have literally a six-figure income because she works on Fox News. So she's making probably $500,000 a year. You know, women tend to not go south. They want at least the same or more or whatever other reason they have. And, you know, she's looking at, of course, 6 foot tall, six-pack abs, you know, at least $500,000 in income.
Well, you know, if she wants all that stuff, she better be it. Like, one thing that I have given my unsolicited opinion about is that women who want a certain kind of man, that's fine. Just you be what he wants too, because this man that you're describing is not going to want someone who's sitting on their ass eating potato chips, not working out. If you want him to have abs, you better get abs, right? Like, it's just like, fair. Be the thing you want, you know? So, I mean, that's that. Like, be someone that guy would want, you know? And it's as simple as that.
Well, I mean, nothing wrong with Tommy. I mean, she's, you know, in good shape and everything. So it isn't that. It's just this entitlement and this, like, I got to have that because...
That's what I mean. It's an entitlement. Yeah. She's not earning it. She's not earning that, man.
Right.
You know, she's not earning that. She just wants someone to do it for her. I think that's the problem of people are lazy, unaccountable, weak cowards. They're not going to earn what they want. They have a sense of entitlement. They're probably great candidates for the communist system because they want an allowance every month, you know, like, so it's just like, you know, when you earn it, it means so much more, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, now personally, money has never been a huge priority for me when wanting my man. You know, like I prioritize certain other things. Like now, it can be a barometer of laziness, right? So if your man, you know, refuses to work and is drunk all the time and can't like pay his bills, like that is a red flag.
But I mean, why? Let me interrupt you. Why would you even entertain going out with someone who doesn't have a job and is drunk all the time? Why would, I mean, he would have to be spectacular in some other way. Really?
I have a friend that did it. This is what I'm saying. Like, I know women who have their shit together, who make 6 figures, who've had a leech-like boyfriend that don't work, that are drinking all the time. Like, I'm just saying, like, it happens.
What are the reasons that they would give? Do they say, hey, Julliette, you know, I know this guy's kind of a bum, but loneliness, because they can't find other dudes. I mean, it's hard for me, and I think a lot of the guys listening.
It's a brain problem. It is like there's a lot of women and men that falsely think they can't do better until they get so miserable that they're just forced to like unceremoniously eject themselves from their shitty situation. But there's I'd say the vast majority of couples out there are settling for each other, and they're just too reluctant and lazy to get out of their situation because that would tear their entire paradigm and their world apart, and they have to rebuild, and that's a huge pain in the ass. It's a lot of work. So a lot of people are like, gosh, you know, I just don't feel like having a breakup right now. That really sucks, even though I'm super unhappy. It's really that simple. It's like people that are emotionally codependent, that feel lonely, that are afraid of being alone. These are usually the types of people that go from relationship to the relationship, without actually having any downtime, you know. And there's a lot of women that do this, and some women are self-aware about it and some are not. But, you know, I think the people that cannot be single are the ones that are going to settle, because you have no time to be discerning if you have to jump to the next branch like a monkey in a tree. There is no time for discernment there.
Yeah.
You don't have time. And that goes for men too. So it's just like you have to have discernment.
Yeah, men don't have the options that women do, though. That's just not true. It's not true.
No, but there are some. But I did say there are some scales that are tipping where you do see the kind of the rise of some women who can take care of themselves a little bit better than, you know, like the stay-at-home moms of yesteryears, and so they're like the new breadwinners, you know, and now you see this kind of flipped situation. But I was just saying, like, it is shitty when women like have this sense of entitlement to a man they haven't even, you know, that caliber of person, whether that's financial or otherwise, they haven't earned. You know, now 6 figures, I will say something. If you live in California, you need to make 6 figures to pay your rent.
That's nothing.
You know? Yeah. So, like, I'm like, oh, you know, her requirement for 6 figures is just, you know, they probably won't even be able to own a house with that. But okay, you know, I mean, that seems like a reasonable standard if you live in California. You know,
I mean, I make a pretty good salary, and I can't afford to buy a house in Denver. It's just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. But,
yeah.
Well, the cost of living isn't too bad. But, I mean, yeah, San Jose, I mean, because I worked for a company that had an outfit out there, and it's just, I love San Jose. I mean, it's great. It's a wonderful place. But, my God, was it expensive.
I grew up in California. You know, I've only lived in Washington State for the last, right when it turned 26. But for about 4 years.
Yeah.
19, 20,
I mean, California is a beautiful, I mean, it's a great place, but it's just the government is so effed up. I can't believe it. I mean, because
they is too.
Well, I know. Well, that's because all the Californians went north when things got really weird. They went up to Washington and Oregon, and they went to Arizona, and they came to Texas and Colorado. Now we're pretty much communist. We have Boulder just right up the road, and you know the stories of Boulder, right? It's a mini Seattle.
Yeah.
You know, it's a mini Portland. It's
what sucks about these places is that, you know, these super woke places usually have really good food, and they're really clean food and with grass-fed organics, which is really important to me. Like, the quality of food is really important. The problem is that the radical lefties are usually the ones that operate these stores, you know. So that's what's really weird, is that, like, this is not always the case, but like Whole Foods, super like woke and leftist, you know, like very enforcing of the masks. So. That is, I mean, there are good parts of blue states, but the problem, I mean, they have, good food, very like holistically minded, which can also be like an off the grid libertarian type thing too. Like a lot of like homeschool, like, you know, granola types are very like grass-fed organic, like I am. But yeah, it does suck that a lot of lefties are like the gatekeepers to some of that, you know? So, but those are the blue states for you. And.
Oh, well, Colorado's pretty blue. We've got a communist for governor. We have at least 2 of our representatives are going to be on the impeachment team.
What a waste of time
to
try to impeach Trump. I mean, I think they're trying to make sure that he can't run again, but.
But I mean, how could they even do that? Just because they'd have to convict him, and they're not going to get a conviction.
I know what? I actually think they can get a conviction only because there's so many corrupt people running both the House and the Senate right now. Like literally, like for the first time in history, as far as I'm aware, please correct me if I'm wrong, we have a blue House, a blue Senate, and a blue executive. All completely and utterly legitimate, of course. But, you know, like we have all of these fakesters in office that are going to vote for horseshit. So yes, I think it will pass, but only because we have super douchebags that are sitting there that shouldn't be in our branches of government.
But I mean, for impeachment, you need 67 votes.
I believe they can get it with all their douchebags.
I don't think they can. I don't think they can.
Well,
they just had a vote that the 45 of the Republicans voted. No, we're not going to. So they can't do it.
I hope you're right, because I wouldn't put it past any of these guys to do this with their crappy, creepy, non-existent, but somehow manifested majority.
Yeah, I don't think it's the first time that it's been all blue. Didn't President Obama had all blue in the first 2 years?
Did he really?
Yeah.
Are you sure that he didn't have some pushback from the red? And by the way, I think the red guys are owned too. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think
that,
it's a uniparty at this point. It's just, hey,
Yeah.
let's throw some red meat out there and get our people. Because, I mean, what do I always talk about? Guns, which is important. Abortion, obviously, is important, right? So the pro-life, pro-choice thing, the pro-gun, the anti-gun thing. You know, again, we could go down that rabbit hole. There is no right to an abortion in the Constitution. There is a right to have a gun. But, hey, you know how that friggin' argument where you just don't get anywhere. Except it seems more likely they're probably going to start doing something with guns, which is a bit scary.
And you guys can't let them take your guns. You just don't let them take your guns.
What I heard is they're going to do a $200 a year tax.
I heard something worse. I heard something worse than that, but it isn't happening until it's happening, but they were going to basically try to make it illegal. I wish I had the verbiage because I'm probably just misrepresenting this, but they would they were going to do something that's going through the House and Senate or something.
There's all kinds of shit going through the House and Senate.
But would basically make it illegal for you to operate or have the gun you already have or some super horse shit like that, right?
Right.
Now, if that happens, and they try to confiscate your guns and make it illegal for you to have what you have and try to buy them back, like, you guys know what you have to do, right? You can't give over your guns, even if they come to your house. As
Terrence Popp says, unfortunately, I lost all my guns in a boating accident. I don't know where they went. They're at the bottom of the lake.
Precisely. In fact, you know what, you guys, everyone listening, if you happen to lose your gun within, I don't know, the next day or 2 or 3, you should probably just call your local institution and report that missing. Just do it, because, hey, you can't return a gun that's gone, right? And you're kind of, right? So just if you happen to lose your gun, report it missing ASAP.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Right away. I would prioritize it.
Because I keep hearing this made-up bullshit about the loophole or whatever. And I'm looking at this stuff, and it's like, I know this is not true. You cannot just go online and buy a friggin' gun and have it delivered to your house. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, it's a lot more complicated than that.
You have to. Well, yeah, you can get different pieces and stuff. I suppose you could theoretically. That's a loophole. But then the gun show loophole, you can you go to the gun show and you can get a gun without a light. Well, yeah, I mean it's a private transaction which currently isn't covered. I don't have any problem actually if they want to do if you have a private transaction you have to run it through the feds. I don't think I'd get all crazy about that. But I mean at least they'd shut up about this bullshit. Well, there's all these loopholes and these evil people and there's black rifles and they're military style. Let's get it. My God. It's just, it's too much to take because maybe it just drives a person crazy because what they're saying is not true. And it just gets me just worked up, right? I don't know. What do you think?
It's gaslighting. We live in a gaslighting world right now. And I like to say that I get used to it in a way that at least I can navigate it without totally losing my shit anymore. Because when all this started super hardcore last year, I would lose my shit regularly when people would just do obnoxious things that made no sense, whether it had to do with masks or just this belief system that guns are bad or white people are bad or whatever narrative. We have to understand, like, we are living in something worse than 1984.
Yeah.
We're headed toward is something worse, and gaslighting is the norm. And when you try that, if you really want to be gaslit, talk to your doctor on a Zoom call and try to get them to talk about, the untested vaccine. Like, if you really want some fun, it's not fun, and they'll like kind of try to pussyfoot around it most of the time, or they'll give weird little like non-committal answers, and then when you present something super logical, scientific, and rational, they'll just like go, they want to even answer you most of the time, or if they do answer you, they'll give like a lie, and you're like, you're a doctor, so people are just lying to us.
Just ask the doctor, explain to me what messenger RNA is, and has it ever been used before in a vaccine? No.
They're not vaccine specialists. Like, that's the thing, is that people think that doctors, MDs, are like the authorities on everything. No, they have their limited knowledge on stuff. Sure. They're not a scientist, you know, unless they literally pivoted their research to that specific thing. They don't know shit, and they don't try to know shit. They just are given information by the institution and they regurgitate it. And that said, though, with their supposedly intelligent scientific minds, they should be able to be like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. But most of them don't. Most of them will just say what the institution wants them to say. And therefore, just like I said before, we are living in a world of gaslighting. So we just have to, when we see these people gaslighting us, we have to be like, okay, check. I won't talk to you anymore. Right? Like, I think for our sanity, you guys, we have to cut people out who are giving us lies and horseshit because they are asleep. They're not helping. They're part of the problem.
I mean,
they're driving you insane. Like, you don't make space for them in your life. You know, like, that's it. I
mean, I listened to Brett Weinstein and Heather Hying, I think her name is. They do a podcast called Dark Horse, and he was the guy at Evergreen. You remember that a couple years ago, where the Evergreen College with the SJWs going crazy.
Washington.
And they're living now in Portland, and he is really he's a radical left-wing sort of guy, right? Pretty much. And he's more of a thinker. It's like, okay, this is my belief system, but why do these people believe in what they're believing in? And he goes, yeah, I guess I can see their point. And they start looking at it like that. But they are trained biologists, so it's very interesting to hear them discuss all of these things that we just talked about. I don't know if you ever have the chance to check it out, but it's really interesting because they're saying the same thing. It's like, you know, this is scary, right? You know, it might be a miracle that science has come up with this messenger RNA stuff. It might be the best thing since sliced bread, but we won't know for 10, 15, 20 years because we don't know what the effects are going to be at some time down the road, right? That's what their take is on it. And they know this stuff. They know the literature. They know the experiments. They know all this crap. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of it's a non-starter. I don't know if you saw that on my YouTube channel, I interviewed Sally Fallon Morell, and she is a researcher who is teamed up with a doctor who's actually specialized in some of this research about the virus. And these PCR tests are totally worthless, and the virus itself has never been isolated.
Yeah.
Like, there's people pretending they've isolated it, and it's been debunked over and over again. The virus hasn't been isolated, and therefore, you know, I don't want to ruin the video that I made, but if some of you guys want to travel over to the channel and watch it, it's not what you think, you guys. This virus isn't what you think. So all this talk of like RNA versus, it's horseshit. They haven't isolated anything. It's a non-starter. There's no point even talking about it.
Really?
You know, at this point, until they isolate the virus, why even bother talking about like the non-existent DNA that's supposed to be part of it? It doesn't make any sense. You know, it doesn't. Like, so when you're like, what do I think about it? I think it's a non-starter. I
thought this messenger RNA thing was they got some proteins out of somewhere, and they kind of mixed it up in this thing, right? And then they shoot it into you, and then it kind of burrows into your cell and then creates
sounds like a
copies
vaccine,
of itself or something. Yeah.
That sounds like a vaccine, and I don't trust vaccines. And this lady makes a good case against vaccines.
Okay.
So I guess people want to get into the science of it. The problem is the science is based on nothing because there is no virus that's been isolated. You know, that's what sucks. So my poor YouTube channel, because I have one warning right now. I'm sure I'm being monitored, and I'm going to continue producing interviews with these like super courageous people.
Right.
But so far my channel still exists. They just nuked that one interview I had with Jay Parker, which is now on BitChute. So thank you for publicizing that.
They nuked it and they gave you a strike as well?
Well, they said it's not officially a strike because it's a first offense. It was a warning.
Okay.
But the warning stays on your channel forever, whereas strikes are supposed to go away. But
really?
Once they target your channel, it says so on. If you go, you've gotten your own warnings, I'm sure.
Yes, yes, I have.
Speaking out. So yeah, your warning stays in your permanent profile. So basically, anything you get after a warning is a strike. Anything, you don't get another warning. So now I'm kind of like on a ticking clock, and I fully intend to keep saying things I don't like, and so it's just a matter of time, probably before they shut my channel down. But I'm not monetized. I'm not doing it for the money. I mean, it'd be nice if I was monetized. It'd be nice to have some source of income, you know.
Yeah.
Considering how our economy is so screwed up right now.
You wouldn't be monetized anyway, because they'd say, this is controversial material. We're not going to monetize. I mean, even some of the guys I watch, like Coach Greg Adams. I don't know if you know him, but he does a lot of talks about men and women relationships and stuff like that. I don't think he's been monetized since the beginning. Because they just say, no, too controversial, we can't have that, and blah, 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 right? And,
precisely. Yeah. And the reason I do this is like I kind of told you before, it's because I consider anything that goes forward like part of my fault and responsibility. So everything I do is in an effort to either galvanize, or I don't know if I'm using it, it's to gather the lions or to wake up the sheep, whatever really helps, whatever red pills, whatever calls to action, because I really care about my baby's future. Now, if I wasn't a parent, I might have, it's possible I could have an attitude that's more devil may care, and I'll be like, well, I'll do the best I can, but whatever. But because I am invested in the future, because the worst thing that could ever happen to me is something happening to her. I do everything I can to somehow create a better world for her. And if planting a couple red pills with my YouTube videos, if the protests that I've organized and the activism that I've organized in the streets helps, it's really, everything really is for her at the end of the day. And for all of you, it's really, it's not your baby, it's the next generation. It's really for them.
Yeah. No, you're right. So what do you think the possibility of a friendly divorce in this country? I think parts of it just say, we want to go with a different, we don't like this. We see no way out here, and we don't want any violence. We're just going to say, hey, we're going to form our own country. What do you think? It's been floated. I don't know.
I would love for that to be true. And because I want to be an open-minded, critical thinker, I'm never going to count out any possibilities. However, if they put us in a position of having to defend ourselves, I mean, this is kind of just goes back to the very simple dynamics of the playground. Don't hit, right? You don't hit people. Don't be violent. But if someone's trying to beat the shit out of you, then you have to defend yourself.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So violence serves the purpose in self-defense.
I agree. Yeah.
So when they come after you, and they will, we have to stand with our neighbors. We can't let them take our neighbors. You know, we have to band together if we're seeing someone unlawfully abducted, detained, whether it's by law enforcement. And I will say, you know, like I have, been historically in recent memory back the blue, but the problem is there's cops are just like everybody else, and they're slaves to their paycheck. And like everybody else, the vast majority of people are cowards, and they won't do the right thing because it's too hard.
Yep.
And if the New World Order starts using cops to enforce draconian orders that are enforce non-laws while ignoring real laws, then anyone who does that, including cops, become the enemy.
So, I don't think we're going to see the government per se coming to our houses and taking us into custody or doing anything like that.
What if you don't forfeit your guns when they want you to? Then you're a criminal, right? So just I'm just saying, like, I hope you're right, man. But like, if you're not, and if they start to, I mean, people have already been unlawfully abducted, arrested, and detained. It happened to one of my friends. Now she's out, but that's the start, right? So we're gonna see, like, as long as you have these new world order tyrants in charge in an unelected way, they're going to do all kinds of crazy shit to try to create, push their agenda. And that means getting rid of the undesirables. And if that happens, where you have someone come to your home in an unlawful way to take what is yours, to hurt you and your family, you will have to not be a pussy, and you will have to stand up. This includes women. This includes women too. So
I just don't think that's going to happen, though.
I want you to be right, man, but I've already seen this start to happen to people. And not just from my own networks, but just you can see the videos that go viral of police abusing people in the name of the New World Order.
Well, what about that lady in where was Lexington, or where they busted in and shot her up? I mean, what the hell is that? How is that the way to treat somebody, you know?
So there you go. You are saying it yourself, but you don't think that could happen to you? It happened to someone else. She's dead now. Right?
She is, yeah. And it's a very sad situation.
She probably wouldn't have been dead if she freaking protected herself, or she probably wouldn't have been dead if the community protected her against the agents of the New World Order. You know, and the New World Order will try to use whatever they can against the people. They will use wage slaves to enforce draconian rules, whether it's the guy at the grocery store telling you to wear a mask, or the cop that is arresting you for something he shouldn't be arresting you for.
Yep.
You know, so I'm saying, like, you don't think it's going to happen? It's happening already. Now the question then becomes, can we somehow pivot as a culture to prevent it from continuing to happen? And that's where I'm going to say I'm open-minded. But I'm saying, if they come to you and you see that they're coming to your neighbors, don't leave your neighbor out to dry. You know, they win when we don't help each other. They win when we lack community, right? Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. You don't want it to be true, but be prepared for it to be true. Because if you're not over prepared, you're under prepared in this situation.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they don't want to move toward that sort of thing. I just don't think they're going to do it, at least not yet. It might happen at some point. But what I do think is what's going on.
Not tomorrow, maybe.
Not tomorrow,
maybe
in
a couple months,
years.
Maybe in a year. Yeah, I mean, I think you know, from now to 2030 is going to be a shitstorm.
I think you're right. And at least initially, I think part of this demonizing white supreme pizza men, Trump voters and all that stuff, because what they're trying to do is, again, Joe Biden can say all these people are evil and everything, but theoretically he can't do anything about it, right? Because we do have the First Amendment. It's still constitutional to even have horrible thoughts. If you are part of these groups, you can still think that way. You could even say crap like that, right? So President Biden can't really, say we need to take these guys out. But what have they done with Twitter? What have they done with Facebook? What have they done with YouTube? These people have gone away. They've gone away, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not stopping them from speaking. Joe Biden's going to say, but hey, it's not I didn't do it. It's Facebook. They're a private company. See, that's the way I think it's going to go, and they're going to make it increasingly more difficult for you to move around the country with respect to the thing. Right.
It's the slow trickle. It's slow, but it's quick. It feels quick, but it's slow, and they're doing it slowly so that it's kind of like heating up a crab in boiling water. Like it's getting hotter and hotter, and we're tolerating it, and then before we know it, we're boiled.
Right.
So I agree with you. They're not going to probably go hammer us tomorrow with FEMA camps, but it's on the agenda. It's just they're going to take other steps before that happens.
Of course, yeah.
So what I'm saying is we have to fight every single step, which is why I'm such an ardent anti-mask activist, because that's one of the first steps, because every single step leads further into the ditch of totalitarianism. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But I mean,
I think you and I can agree. But I mean, you think it'll never get there, and I'm like, it will get there if we don't.
I think it will. They're going to have to do a lot of things, I think, first.
Yes, I agree. So they're not going to overnight go do these things, but overnight they will do other horrible things, which will lead to other horrible things. And it's going to feel quickly to all of us who are awake and paying attention. It's going to feel really quick. But to the common everyday person who's asleep, they're not going to notice it because they're plugged in,
Well, I mean, that's the domestic violent extremist bulletin from the Department of Homeland Security, which, of course, is everybody who might disagree with illegal immigration is now a domestic violent extremist. Well who would that be?
Well, didn't they say everyone who voted for Trump is going to be on some re-education list?
Well, that's Alexandria.
Yeah,
that's her wet dream. I don't think that's going to happen.
You never know.
Well, you never do know. There has been chatter on mainstream media. You say you don't watch it, but I pull it up once in a while on YouTube, and they're saying, wow, we got to figure out a way to manage the problem, right? these Trump supporters, we got to figure out how to re-educate them. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, the problem, the final solution, they didn't say the final solution, but a full solution. I mean, these are words that came straight out of Germany, right? This shouldn't be a secret to anybody. This is the stuff that Adolf was saying. And Goebbels and all these guys, right?
But they're anti-fascist, don't forget. Just because they say they're anti-fascist, so they must be anti-fascist because their label says anti-fascist.
That's right.
You know, so we have to believe that because that's what their label says.
So I mean,
so whether it's in a month or in 10 years, like I'm just telling myself and everyone else, like we've got to be prepared to stand our ground no matter when they come. If we let it get that far, which I feel like we as the people have more power when we have a set of balls. I just kind of go back to this, you know, like if more people just simply didn't comply, they wouldn't have power. But they have power because people are complying with this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like I said, you know, people driving their cars around by themselves with masks on. So what the hell is this? I mean, God.
And now people are getting the untested vaccine, and I would normally say, oh, well, you know, Darwinism, take them out, you know, whatever. But the thing that sucks is that they're poor, defenseless children or people that, you know, really don't have any power whatsoever are going to be punished because of the ignorance of this. Yep. That's what sucks. It's like, fine, you're an adult, you want to poison yourself with an untested vaccine, go for it. But then the kids, right? But then the kids get screwed because of a zealot, brainwashed parent that's plugged into the mainstream media, you know. And there's no unringing that bell.
I mean, excuse me. Some of these, let's call them women's rights activists. I think a lot of them are actually at this point just automatons. I don't think they can think, and I think that's been part of the indoctrination in higher education and elementary. I mean, it's been going on for a very long time. Right, that's part of the whole Frankfurt School stuff, and because it's almost, I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Jordan Peterson. Since something like, if I can sit down with you and I know immediately what your thought process is on this particular thing, and I don't even have to talk to you. It's like you're not even there because I already know what you're going to say. Right? You see some of these fembots, it's like, my God. And there are a lot of fembots that are probably Democrat that have children that are just going to willy-nilly, oh, yeah, well, we got to get that because reasons. Not even think about it. I mean, there's got to be somebody in there that's got some brains here. It can't just be these bunch of robots running around. Pavlovian responses to everything at this point. Your thought?
There are people that are critically thinking. They're just not the majority. And I think what we just have to accept is we can't control all the carnage that's going to happen from people's ignorance, and it's disgusting. But what we can do is everything we can do, right? So and you're asking, well, what the hell is that? It's just anything you can think of. Like my husband and I, when we do our activism, you know, we try new shit all the time. We do the old tried and true kind of like patriot support businesses. They're standing up against the lockdown. We do we used to, like, we still do it. We get like a group of anti-maskers and we go charge a grocery store. We've done protests at the governor's house. You know, but I mean, we do 1 to 4 events a week in the streets. And when I say in the streets, I mean like whether it's in the street or like out with our faces, like we're not just online.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So when I say in the streets, I mean like go put your ass out there and your face out there and do the hard thing, you know, whatever that is. So just if you're worried about what all these poor little souls are going to do, you know, and you can't really control them, just remember you can control yourself and do everything you can think of to undermine the thing that is violating your integrity. And it can be online. I think there is a lot of great, like this is technically online activism that you and I are doing right now, which is helpful, but people need to take it a step further. They need to take off their masks. They need to say no to the vaccine. They can maybe like put stickers around, like trying to wake people up saying like, you know, resist the New World Order, whatever. Just think of something, do it. Just do it, right? Just keep going. Go to a restaurant that's defying the lockdowns, give them business without a mask, you know, support the brave ones, because the more brave business owners are out there, the freer we are. Because I mean, business owners are like gatekeepers. If they're enforcing it, that's one less place you can go, you know, and be free. right? So you want to support the places that are supporting your freedom. If they go bankrupt, that's one less outpost, for our movement here. And when I say movement, I know you guys don't like the idea of movement when it comes to MGTOW, but when I say movement, I mean movement for our collective freedom.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So just keep doing what you can, and maybe somehow it'll trickle over into the other side, because never underestimate the power of planting seeds. And we might be able to help them to grow here and there, but a lot of people, like especially me, are like, we plant the seed and we're like, why isn't it growing? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Grow?
Yeah. Exactly.
And sometimes we just have to plant a bunch of seeds and then be the example.
So you've watched the Yuri Bezmenov stuff, right?
Sounds familiar.
He was the KGB guy that was like the demoralization of America, and really? Oh my God! Well, I'll have to send you a link to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that I might have
come across. Well, he was an old guy, kind of bald with glasses. He was a former KGB guy. Went to Canada. He escaped or whatever. That's good stuff. But he goes through the steps that I think are 30 years or so too late. But I think we're going through these now. One is demoralization, a crisis, various other things like that. I'll shoot you a link in the email so you can look at it. But it's pretty interesting. And again, we don't know. The thing about him is you don't know if he was actually a defector or he was a plant to. Well, anyway, you can get down the rabbit hole. So it's about 2 hours. So I'll ask you one final thing with respect to this thing, right? We heard for months and all of last year, Donald Trump was calling a certain thing fake news, blah, 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 right? Now, of course, what he was talking about, I believe, was the coverage of this thing. The thing is real. It's just the coverage is so overboard with some of this stuff. At least that's kind of what I thought. You may have noticed that it was said on January 20th, CNN and all the major networks dropped their death counter on their screen of this particular thing. That happened on the day Joe Biden was inaugurated. Imagine that. And we just hear from Newsom in California that they're going to lift a bunch of restrictions. Conveniently, a week after Joe Biden becomes president. Do you see any connection? Do you? Between Trump going away and suddenly things aren't as bad as we thought.
Yeah. They're pretending to save us from something that doesn't exist in the way that we think. They're creating chaos to pretend to be the saviors.
Yeah. Again, the crisis, one of the crisis steps, right? Yeah. That's kind of what I think. And I mean, they slammed, Trump, and again, nobody can probably disagree. Some of his words were a little bit hyperbolic, some of his phrases. Although a lot of times he was just trying to troll the media, which actually was fun. You know what I mean? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just found it interesting that the death counts of this thing are now off of the screens on TV, where before they were prominently in the bottom, and it would tell you how many.
Because Biden saved you from the virus.
Well, exactly right.
If it weren't for Biden and all of these corrupt leaders that I hate calling leaders or not leaders, all these corrupt, thieves. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be saved from this non-existent viral problem. When I say non-existent, I mean it's not existing in the way we think. So there's my response there.
Right.
Do you have any other questions for me?
I have lots, but it is 2 hours.
We are running out of time, though.
Well, I mean, the beer store closes at 10 o'clock, so I gotta go get some beer, right?
That's true. I'm on a kind of a time crunch with my baby that is waiting for my attention right now. So
cool.
I would love to keep talking to you, but I think we can maybe do this again.
We can do it again. Yeah, I'm always welcome. Come on and hopefully I can get some more widgets and stuff on the screen here and all that other stuff like some of the other guys do. If I can ever figure it out. I mean, it's not like I do this for a living or anything. I mean,
yeah, no one makes any money, you guys. maybe some of the major YouTubers that are monetized.
Well, I mean, we could just quickly hit this GameStop thing. Did you follow that at all?
A little bit, and oh well, I loved that happened. I loved that basically the community like rose up and tried to contradict the trends that were being essentially forced by, the financiers,
right.
that were in power. And then of course, like it is a massive red pill for the stock market to literally stop selling that stock.
Yep.
Just artificially, so it's like if anything can be more clear that the system is rigged, it's like, oh, this went up way too much, we're gonna not let you sell anymore. Like,
Yep. That's
yeah.
exactly
So
right.
I mean, I'm grateful for that situation because I'm hoping it maybe woke up a few more people, because as much as I'm all about gathering the lions and getting the brave ones to get braver, I'm also very much in favor of getting the sheep to wake up and then also become lions if they have it in them, which I hope they do. I think everyone really does if they are truest to themselves. So I think that might have been a blessing in disguise, in terms of the dark, the evil ones revealing their hand.
Exactly. Yeah, it was apparently some people made a ton of money on it too. So good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully they continue to. Hopefully that despite what those in power want to do to our economy and to the small business owner, that they continue to triumph financially. And that's what we want to do with all of our small businesses that are standing, is provided that they're brave. If they're small businesses that are just complying, then I don't give any shits about them. But if they're brave businesses that are, trying to do the right thing, then absolutely I want them to I want their survival of the fittest to come through,
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So Julliette Frette, the responsible Renegade. I will put all the links. I spelled it wrong. I'll fix that, but I'll put all the links below. Go ahead and if you want to shoot those over, and I'll make sure they get in there. And everybody go enjoy her stuff. And very interesting chat. Thank you.
And thank you.
Let's do it again.
All right.